I was the crown jewel of the capital, yet Crown Prince Huoqi sought to divorce me. He smiled as he told me, "You cannot be the future empress." So I took his bodyguard with me. 3 years later in Jiangnan, we had 2 children. When he saw me again, he said, "I regret it." 3 months into our marriage, the Crown Prince threw divorce papers at my feet. I hastily picked them up and tucked them carefully against my chest. He watched me kneel submissively on the floor, head bowed, body trembling slightly as if weeping a pitiful sight. In his magnanimity, he declared, "You've been obedient enough these 3 months. I shall grant you one final favor. Speak." "Thank you, Your Highness. I ask only to take the 2 servants who attended me in the Eastern Palace back home." "Granted." Before the word had fully left his lips, his simpering childhood sweetheart Su Luliu had already sent word, claiming pregnancy sickness required his presence. From start to finish, he never once told me to rise. He never even truly looked at me. What he didn't know was that I was struggling desperately not to laugh. 3 months married, and I, the crown princess, was being divorced without ever having properly seen my husband's face. On our wedding night, he'd entered the chamber without lifting my red veil, addressing me thus, "My heart belongs only to Lulu." This marriage was arranged by my late imperial grandfather, not by my choice. "I will not touch you. Behave yourself in the Eastern Palace. Tomorrow I depart for Jiangnan on inspection. When I return, we shall divorce." With that, he left without a backward glance. My heart felt hollow. I even began to doubt myself. From age 12, for 4 solid years, managing households, balancing accounts, studying histories and political treatises, mastering music, chess, calligraphy, painting, singing, and proper etiquette. I'd studied everything, applied myself to every lesson, yet the crown prince wouldn't even glance at me before seeking a divorce. I was the punchline to some cosmic joke. Tears fell unchecked. All those years of education hadn't been wasted, though. My character was resilient enough. After a good cry, clarity came. I'd done nothing wrong. Yet all the gossip following this divorce would fall on my shoulders. But it was what it was, no point in dwelling. So I lifted my own veil and went to sleep. Strategic assessment for thirst. She was using minimal time to signal everyone. She was using minimal time to signal Ever's strategy. Let's continue observing. The next day, the crown prince departed for Jiangnan. I became the highest authority in the Eastern Palace. The servants dared not gossip about the wedding night when the crown prince hadn't stayed after all. I held their lives in my hands with a single word. 2 maids caught whispering about me in the corridor. Sold that very day. A cook who'd neglected me and oversalted the dishes. Dismissed from the household immediately. The accounting books showed the slightest discrepancy. 50 lashes on the spot. I wasn't afraid of gaining a reputation for cruelty. My reputation would be ruined after the divorce anyway. Might as well fulfill my duties as crown princess properly. Life goes on, why not enjoy it? Within days, the household ran like clockwork. Servants more diligent and respectful than ever. Since divorce was inevitable, why not let loose? I'd grown up at my maternal grandfather's estate in Jiangnan, where there were no sons, far from the capital. Free from excessive restrictions, I'd been rather carefree. After coming to the capital to become this wretched crown princess, I'd truly lost my joy in life. Now that I couldn't be crown princess, I'd simply be Shen Anja, a wanderer's heart beneath floating clouds. The world was mine to roam. I had 3 months. After the divorce, I could establish my own household. Time to plan properly. When I returned home to visit, I deliberately sought out my father and brother, wailing, "The crown prince wants to divorce me. I can't go on living. Boo-hoo." Father was the head of the civil service, stern and rigid by nature. But I'd lost my mother young and been raised at my maternal grandfather's estate, only returning home at 12. Whenever father saw my face 7 parts resembling mother's, his eyes filled with regret and tenderness. I shall memorialize the emperor, impeach the crown prince for allowing personal feelings to override propriety. Father, you mustn't. The crown prince will one day inherit the throne. We cannot afford to offend him lightly. I lack the fortune to be crown princess, it seems. Thunder and rain alike are heavenly grace. For the long term, for the family's sake, let us accommodate the crown prince's wishes and do him this favor. After the divorce, with father and brother's protection, and grandfather's Shi family in Jiangnan behind me. I can return to Jiangnan to seek a husband and live out my days peacefully. My brother worried that post-divorce gossip in the capital would affect our family's younger generation and their official careers. So he agreed, very well, we'll do as you say. We'll establish a residence for you in Jiangnan, but before the divorce you must properly manage the Crown Prince's household affairs. Don't let him find fault with you. It would damage the family's reputation. Brother, rest assured. After all, I'd been trained to Crown Princess standards. My abilities were solid. On the way back to the Crown Prince's residence, I encountered a large group of Jiangnan refugees begging for food, surging toward my carriage. Unable to bear seeing the soldiers harm them, I ordered the guards to escort these people to the charity house for proper settlement. As the crowd dispersed, only my maid Xiao Tao and I remained. A shadow flashed. Crown Princess, Shadow Guard number 7, assigned to protect your highness. On whose orders? The Grand Steward, my lady. I see by protocol the Crown Princess having a shadow guard isn't unusual. I've heard Imperial shadow guards are formidable. Where were you hiding just now? Where do you shadow guards usually hide? What do you do when you need the privy? Where do you sleep? If I call for you, will you appear immediately? How many opponents can you fight alone? Shadow guards was so mysterious. I peppered him with questions. Only after speaking did I realize my impropriety. I cleared my throat to cover my embarrassment. You needn't answer everything. Raise your head. Let me see you. Too curious. What did he look like? He lifted his head, sharp brows, bright eyes, strong and handsome features. Very attractive. Your Highness may summon me at will. This subordinate's Qinggong is excellent. I can take on 100 men. His voice was steady with youthful undertones. He must be young. I had to admit, I was smitten. He was exactly my type aesthetically, more robust and handsome than the Crown Prince's portrait. The days ahead in the Crown Prince's residence suddenly seemed more interesting. I swung in the garden. Xiao Qi pushed me. Yes, this subordinate is here. The young guard, helpless and resigned. I admired lotuses at the pavilion. Xiao Qi, I want that one in the lake's center. Fetch it for me. Yes, this subordinate is here. The young guard, dead inside. One day I got lost among the lotus blooms. Xiao Qi, I can't row the boat. Help. Yes, this subordinate is here. The young guard flew over and sat at the stern. I sat at the bow. The lotus flowers were beautiful, so was he. Xiao Qi, how old are you? Replying to your highness, this subordinate is 17. A year older than me, Xiao Qi. Thank you for keeping me company. The Crown Prince and I will divorce. You needn't worry about impropriety sharing this boat. He has never truly looked at me. I saw clear shock on Xiao Qi's face, followed by what looked like sympathy. No need to pity me, even if I am not Crown Princess with my background. The Shen family of the capital and the Shi family of Jiangnan supporting me. I am already blessed beyond measure. Wealth just comes with constraints. Not as happy as rowing this boat today. I deliberately kept my tone light. I hated his pity. Having said that, I rowed to cover my awkwardness. He struck out with a palm strike. The wind from his blow was sharp and fierce. The boat seemed to fly, delighted. I dangled my feet in the water, but in my excitement kicked off a shoe. For the first time, Xiao Qi smiled at me. After that day, we seemed closer. I failed at making pastries. Xiao Qi, try this. Though it is burnt, it should still be edible. Yes, this subordinate is here. I couldn't sleep at night, Xiao Qi. I want to go up on the roof. All right, this subordinate will fetch a ladder. I played the chin. Xiao Qi, perform a sword dance for me. Yes, this subordinate is here. I adored this silent companionship. This was the man who'd spent the most time with me besides close family, and he was so handsome. I felt renewed confidence. With this young guard around, life wasn't so tedious. At night, Xiao Tao attended me in the warm chamber. Miss, have I fallen from favor? You only care for Xiao Qi now. Xiao Tao complained. No, among men I like him best. Among women I like you best. Miss, don't say such things. That is a capital offense. Xiao Tao clapped her hand over my mouth in fright. Xiao Qi, are you there? This subordinate is here. Did you hear that just now? He didn't answer, his ears turned scarlet. Did anyone else hear what I just said? Putting to your highness, no one. Good. You heard it. I smiled slyly, meeting Xiaoqi's astonished expression. He seemed mesmerized by my beauty, staring speechlessly. My unrestrained laughter startled him into leaping onto the roof beam. Shadow guards needn't watch their masters sleep. He should have been outside the hall, but nights were cold, so I insisted he come in, though he found it improper. Imperial orders superseded all, so he had to comply. Half a month later, I visited the charity house to check on the refugees from that day. Their numbers had swelled beyond management capacity. Father had taught me since childhood not to become mired in romantic entanglements, but to keep the nation in my heart. Before I left, I had to settle these refugees properly. I opened the Crown Prince's treasury, purchased good farmland to settle the refugees, waiving rent for the first year with rent due after the autumn harvest the following year. By next autumn's harvest, I'd be divorced anyway. What did I care? His Highness the Crown Prince has opened his private treasury to settle you all. You may remain in the capital's outskirts and farm with peace of mind. This earned the Crown Prince a reputation for benevolence. He couldn't complain when he returned. I often visited the outskirts, spending time with the settled refugees, farming and chatting. They'd come from Jiangnan, where flooding was severe. I wondered if grandfather was safe. After settling everything, I had Xiaoqi drive me back. Yes, Xiaoqi had transformed from shadow guard to nearly an open guard. I wanted to see his handsome face every day. One tease and he'd blush. He was too entertaining. On the return journey, we encountered a rainstorm. The carriage was watertight inside. I was fine, but I worried about Xiaoqi. Somehow, between our jokes, I'd come to truly care for him. Xiaoqi, come inside. It is cold out there. Improper, Your Highness. His ears reddened again, worried he'd catch cold. I stopped teasing him, opened the carriage door, and pulled him inside in one motion. He brought the chill with him, water droplets on his handsome face, lips cherry red, utterly tempting. I'd never been so close to a man. My face flushed too. A candle flickered in the carriage, its dim light creating a rather charged atmosphere. I found myself leaning toward him unconsciously, color high, eyes bright, my breath inadvertently sultry. Your Highness, we mustn't. This breaks protocol. His voice was hoarse. It didn't sound like refusal, more like invitation. I planted a kiss on his lips, his pupils dilated in shock. You being in here already breaks protocol. What is one more transgression? I deliberately teased him. Do you think I am beautiful? Tell the truth. Deceiving your mistress carries the penalty of great disrespect. His face flushed crimson. A long time passed. So long I thought he wouldn't answer, had already settled back properly. Your Highness is supremely beautiful. His eyes held nothing but sincerity, so much so that my heartbeat skipped. What is your real name? This subordinate is seventh in my family, Shi Muqing. You are also surnamed Shi. My maternal grandfather is surnamed Shi. This subordinate's ancestral home is also Jiangnan. After the divorce, would you be willing to return to Jiangnan with me? The moment the words left my mouth, I regretted them. Beauty had addled my wits, my mouth moving faster than my brain. I hung my head, face burning with embarrassment. I would, through life and death. His voice was small but clear, each word distinct as it reached my ears. My cheeks grew even hotter. You may call me by my familiar name, Angie. As Crown Princess, I cannot give you a token improperly, but after leaving the Crown Prince's residence, I will certainly, Angie, certainly what? Certainly marry me. I detected teasing in his tone. Was this still my shy, innocent young guard? I glared at him, face crimson, speechless. The rain stopped. The setting sun painted the sky red. Words were unnecessary. Our hearts already understood each other. Strategic assessment. Point 2, bilateral contract lock at this juncture. Shen Anji revealed a critical information gap. She believed Xia Muqing was merely an ordinary shadow guard, but his true identity was Prince Xian's legitimate second son, Commandery Prince Huo Wuji of Nanqin. What did this mean? Shen Anji thought she was recruiting a useful tool, but in fact she'd married into a power structure of higher caliber than the crown princes. Now let's watch how she executes the final settlement. Before I knew it, 3 months had passed. The crown prince returned. He entered the palace, citing his achievements in Jiangnan flood control, requesting the favor of divorcing me. Later I heard that His Majesty had been so furious he'd thrown a memorial at the crown prince's forehead, drawing blood. The head of civil officials, a celebrated talent of the capital, the treasured daughter of 2 great families. Even she isn't worthy of you. Father Emperor, your son already has someone he loves. I cannot wrong her in the slightest. I beg Father Emperor's blessing. The crown prince knelt in the palace for a day and a night before finally achieving his wish. Upon his return, the first thing he did was throw the divorce papers at me. I hastily picked them up and carefully tucked them against my chest. He watched me kneel submissively on the floor, head bowed, body trembling slightly as if weeping. A pitiful sight. In his magnanimity, he declared, "You've been obedient enough these 3 months. I shall grant you one final favor. Speak." Obedient. Recalling that kiss with Shi Muqing in the carriage. I hardly deserved the description, but for the sake of my reward, I had to hold back laughter. I pretended to keep my head bowed submissively. "Thank you, Your Highness. I ask only to take the 2 servants who attended me in the Eastern Palace back home." Granted. Before the word had fully left his lips, his simpering childhood sweetheart Sululu had already sent word, claiming pregnancy sickness required his presence. From start to finish, he never once told me to rise. He never even truly looked at me. What he didn't know was that I was trembling from excitement. 3 months married, and I, the crown princess, was being divorced without ever having properly seen my husband's face. Everything had long been packed. I took all my dowry, and I took Shi Muqing and Xiao Tao as well. I'd given the Grand Steward a banknote. Both now had new identities. The Crown Prince had given me 3 days to pack, but when Sululu informed him I'd be leaving that very day, he was somewhat taken aback. The Crown Prince initially had no intention of seeing me off, but that troublemaker Sululu insisted on dragging him to the main gate, probably hoping to see me weeping pathetically. How could I not oblige her? I deliberately applied a delicate, pitiful makeup, eyes slightly reddened, features ethereal and touching, so beautiful one couldn't look away. My reputation for being the capital's greatest beauty wasn't unearned. Muqing, am I lovely? Miss, why are your eyes red? Sad to leave the crown prince. Shi Muqing asked, brow furrowed. What, jealous? I haven't even seen what he looks like properly. Shall we return to Jiangnan? This life I follow Mrs. Command. I smiled with satisfaction, threw my arms around his neck, and planted a kiss on his cheek. He flew away in embarrassment. I'll ready the carriage, miss. I smiled gently, thinking the days ahead promised such sweetness. But before the crown prince, I switched to a sorrowful expression. Your Highness, I've handed all household matters to the Grand Steward. These 3 months under the crown prince's care, I am deeply grateful. I curtsied and raised my head, my exquisite features radiant in the sunlight. Both the crown prince and Sululu started. Sululu's grip tightened, jealousy and hatred naked in her eyes. After seeing my face clearly, the crown prince seemed momentarily dazed. Such haste isn't necessary. A few more days wouldn't matter. You could stay longer. Since we're already divorced, I shan't impose further. I wish your Highness and Miss Su an early union. I hastily took my leave, fearing complications. Needling Sululu was sufficient. No need to overdo it. We departed by carriage. Upon reaching the Eastern District, I had Shi Muqing exchange it for a more modest vehicle. The Crown Prince's carriage was too conspicuous. Xiao Tao and I disguised ourselves as young men and sat outside. We toured mountains and rivers all the way to Jiangnan, carefree and joyful. I only learned later that Sululu had sent assassins that very day. They'd found the Crown Prince's carriage only to discover others inside, and she'd gone to the Crown Prince to cause trouble. Your Highness, Shen Onji actually sold the Crown Prince's carriage. I saw our household carriage the other day being used by the drunken Immortal Pavilion's proprietor. Such presumption. She must have encountered difficulties. After all, she took none of the Crown Prince's residence's property when we divorced. Since we're already divorced, let's not pursue it further. In the Crown Prince's mind flashed the white-clad figure from that farewell, supremely elegant yet supremely beautiful, rare in this world. Any man would be moved. Now divorced, having lost the support of both the Shen and Shi families. What a pity. But a nation's heir apparent couldn't go back on his word. The regret was unavoidable. These past days he'd noticed the household's atmosphere had completely transformed. Shen Anji's management skills were exceptional. All the maids now wore only simple fabric flowers. When he inquired, they answered, the Crown Princess instructed that with Jiangnan flooding we should practice frugality and restraint. Those above set the example for those below. The bed curtains in his chambers had been changed to lotus-colored fragrant cloud, gauze more breathable and warmer. Her travel journals in his study bore her commentary in delicate calligraphy, every sentence vivid and engaging. On the beam in her chambers hung a self-portrait she'd forgotten to take, brows and eyes expressing joy or annoyance, utterly charming. Half the household's silver had been used to purchase land and aid disaster victims. The harvest had been excellent now, and with rent collected, not only had it earned him a good reputation, there was profit besides. Shen Anji had left, but her shadow remained throughout the residence, and what comes easily holds less appeal. Su Lulu knew nothing of household management, coming to him coquettishly with every problem. Once or twice was novel, but it grew tiresome over time. Recently, he discovered Shen Anji's policy essays in his study, meticulously annotated with fresh perspectives. The Crown Prince felt he'd conducted a misaligned romance with Shen Anji. When he didn't know her worth, she'd married him. When his heart stirred, she'd already gone. He'd merely awakened to the fact that there existed women more beautiful and talented than Su Lulu in this world. He was unwilling now to grant Su Lulu the position of principal consort, receiving her into the household only as a secondary consort. People cannot truly empathize with one another, but I'd long since transformed the Crown Prince residence's travel journals into living scenery before my eyes. Shi Muqing and I watched the frontier landscapes together while Xiao Tao kept house in Jiangnan. Shi Muqing and I watched the desert's flying sands together while Xiao Tao kept house in Jiangnan. Shi Muqing and I basked in the sun by the seaside when Xiao Tao's letter arrived. Miss, return quickly. I found my beloved come bear witness to our marriage. I leaned against Shi Muqing's chest. Muqing, Xiao Tao wants us home to witness her wedding. We've been away half a year, let's return. Anji, let us marry. I'll protect you all your life. He produced a jade bracelet of exceptional quality, clearly no ordinary item. Where did this come from? Muqing, aren't you a shadow guard? Aren't shadow guards all orphans? This bracelet is no common thing. What is your true background? I sprang from his embrace in shock. What is this? You've already kissed me, already absconded with me, and now you are frightened. Tell me quickly. Don't scare me. My father is Prince Xian, the Emperor's brother. I am Prince Xian's legitimate second son, Commandery Prince Huo Wuji of Nanqin. By rank, that makes me Crown Prince Huo Qi's younger brother, sister-in-law. How do you do? His tone carried mockery. My legs went weak with shock. This was the very Prince Huo Wuji of Nanqin, beloved by the late Emperor from age 10 and granted a commandery princedom, Prince Xian's legitimate second son. This time I'd really stepped in it. As I wallowed in regret, he pulled me into his embrace, soothingly stroking my hair. I was ordered by His Majesty to conceal my identity and train with the Shadow Guards. 9 months ago, my superior assigned me to protect the Crown Princess. Initially, I was indifferent, thinking I was merely watching over the moon. But when that moonlight shone on me, I became selfish, hoping the bright moon would hang high, illuminating me alone. Shen Anji, marry me. I promise you, one heart, one partner for one lifetime. But how can my divorced status marry you? 3 metropolitan graduates in one family, 4 top scholars across 5 generations. The Shen family standing, even the Crown Prince is worthy. If you are willing, the mere title of Commandery Princess would only diminish you. His eyes seemed to hold entire galaxies. Our time together in the Crown Prince's residence. Our carefree travels after the divorce. Surviving Su Lulu's assassination attempts multiple times. Our bond had long transcended ordinary relationships. Yes, I'll marry you. I rested my head on his shoulder. When did you first have such thoughts about me? The first sight of you. I thought you merely a delicate, noble lady, but devastatingly beautiful, a femme fatale. Later, watching you settle refugees, commanding with such composure, I realized I'd underestimated you. Damn it all, a woman like you no man could help but love. He sighed, looking like he'd been thoroughly ensnared. I've already informed father. He indicated we should marry here in our Jiangnan fief, the sooner the better, lest the crown prince have regrets. Your maternal grandfather is also in Jiangnan. You can marry from his household. My fief happens to be in Jiangnan. We're truly fated. He held me close. Speaking volubly, I felt rather like a lamb fallen into his trap. So when I planned to settle in Jiangnan, why didn't you reveal your identity? Our bond was still shallow. I didn't know if you were smitten by my looks or truly cared for me, the small shadow guard. So you just quietly watched me scheme, ultimately falling into your fief. He smiled, falling into my trap. No, into our fief, my princess consort. I was speechless. He looked innocent and naive, but was actually a master strategist. I didn't know whether my judgment was excellent or terrible. I'd picked myself a commandery prince at first glance. Back in Jiangnan, everything was prepared for Xiao Tao's wedding. 3 days after her marriage, I began planning my own. This time, my feelings were entirely different from when I'd married the crown prince. Huai Wuji personally attended to everything. He had 800 questions for me daily. Anji, shall the bed curtains be lotus or peach blossoms? I once picked lotus blooms for you. They carry the meaning of pledged love. But you've always preferred peach blossoms. What to do, Anji? Which wedding gown do you prefer? Come choose. Anji, shall we alter the banquet menu? Anji, review the guest list. Anji, all fine, I smiled wryly. Why aren't you taking our wedding seriously? He draped himself on my shoulder, acting spoiled. I am satisfied with the groom. The rest doesn't matter. I smiled gently. Pleased by my words, he lifted me and spun in circles. Put me down, this is unseemly. Won't. Laughter and playful sounds rippled across the spring pond. Spring had arrived. The auspicious hour was at hand. Our story was beginning a new chapter, recalling the anxiety, restraint, and fear of missteps when I'd married into the crown prince's residence. It felt like another lifetime. But today, from the wedding procession onwards, Huo Wuji never let go of my hand. He carried me across the brazier, led me to bow to his parents, personally wrote my name in the family registry, and steadily escorted me to the bridal chamber. Noble matrons of the clan attended us in the bridal chamber, serving as we lifted the veil together, drank the nuptial wine, and performed the hair-binding ceremony with strands of our hair. Not one elaborate ritual was omitted. Though exhausting, it demonstrated his care and regard. Through his actions, he was telling everyone he cherished Shenonji. The wedding candles crackled merrily. We were both somewhat nervous. Anji, you are so beautiful. Let me hold you. He gently pulled me into his embrace, lips at my ear. Call me husband. Husband. He smiled with satisfaction, murmuring at my ear, my wife isn't merely the capital's crown jewel, she is the world's most stunning beauty. It tickles, husband. Wife must be good. I'll be gentle. His tone carried enchantment. Before I could respond, he sealed my lips with his. The night was long, moonlight dancing beyond the windows. So this was what a wedding night could be. The next day I was utterly spent, but still forced myself to rise and pay respects to Prince Xian and the princess consort. The prince and princess consort were unexpectedly amiable. After brief pleasantries, they released me to return to the commandery prince's residence. Throughout the journey, Huo Wuji held my hand. The household maids and matrons covered their smiles when they saw us, making me blush with embarrassment. But something even more embarrassing was about to happen. The moment we entered the courtyard, I saw last night's blood-stained peach blossom bedding hanging in the very center of the yard. I buried my face in Huo Wuji's chest in mortification. What custom is this? Husband, take it down quickly. I am dying of shame. He chuckled softly, holding me. Very well, immediately, take it down. My wife is embarrassed. Reporting to the commandery prince, this is airing the joy. To demonstrate the lady's purity and virtue, the old matron reported with a smile. It has been aired now. Take it down. My face was scarlet. Huo Wuji swept me up and dashed into the house, utterly mischievous. 10 days of joy passed like moments. Days of suffering stretched like years. Those 3 months in the Crown Prince's residence, daily managing affairs large and small, arranging my future path had been mentally exhausting. Huo Wuji had been my only comfort. Now, 3 months married, the days flew by too quickly to count. After our marriage, Huo Wuji became remarkably diligent, managing his fief impeccably. Everyone praised him. He merely said, "I have a worthy wife's assistance." My brother wrote several times saying I'd brought honor to the Shen family daughters. One day, Huo Wuji returned carrying osmanthus cakes. "Wife, osmanthus cakes fancy some?" "Finished with official business. You are home early today, husband." I smiled and opened the paper wrapping, but the sweet scent made me retch. The physician was summoned and diagnosed a pregnancy of over a month. Time flowed like Jiangnan's warm sunshine, days sweet and gentle. 2 more years passed. Our twin sons were already running about. One day, Huo Wuji came in looking troubled. "Huo Qi is coming to Jiangnan." Oh, I was folding paper for the 2 children, not looking up. He leaned in. "Wife, have you forgotten him?" "Never remembered him in the first place." "Then why were your eyes red when you left the Crown Prince's residence that day?" "You've been jealous this whole time." "I was acting. I was afraid if he saw me happy he'd feel uncomfortable and cause me trouble. So I deliberately looked pitiful. How much feeling could I have for someone I'd only seen twice?" Huo Wuji laughed at my words, then ran wild through the residence with our 2 sons. Before the welcoming banquet, I encountered the Crown Prince again in my husband's study. No lingering resentment. It just felt like something from a past life. Choosing the right partner truly felt like rebirth. When I entered, the Crown Prince's eyes lit up, thinking his younger brother understood his heart. "Angie, I'd heard you were in Jiangnan. 3 years. Have you been well?" The Crown Prince's eyes brightened at the sight of me. "Your Highness is well." I stepped back and curtsied. He studied me, only then noticing my married hairstyle. "You married." I didn't speak. Huo Wuji had already taken my hand. "Your Highness didn't know I married the Shen family's legitimate daughter." "You married Shen, Anji." "Replying to your Highness, my brother's daughter hasn't yet reached marriageable age. I am the only unmarried woman of the Shen family." The atmosphere became stiff and strange. I worried the Crown Prince would cause trouble, nervously keeping my head down. Huo Wuji traced circles on my back with 2 fingers. I glared at him fiercely before he behaved. To the Crown Prince's eyes, it looked like flirtation. At the welcoming banquet, the Crown Prince drank himself into a stupor and insisted on staying at the Commandery Prince's residence. Huo Wuji wanted to kick him out. I could barely suppress my laughter. That night, I was catching fireflies in the courtyard with the 2 children when I heard someone call my name. Angie. Angie was my familiar name. Few people knew it. Only Huo Wuji had always called me wife. I was quite surprised. I turned to see the Crown Prince. After curtsying, I asked, "How does your Highness know my familiar name?" "I read your travel journals in the study. They had commentary. Young daughter Anji, my heart yearns thither." I thought, if we hadn't divorced, I should be able to call you thus, Your Highness. "This is improper." "Shen Anji, we always miss our moment. When I divorced you, I never imagined you'd remarry." His tone was full of regret. "Your Highness, forgive my great disrespect. Your Highness knew that after divorcing the Crown Prince I might never marry normally. Yet without even seeing my face or lifting my veil, you divorced me. Did you ever consider how difficult my circumstances would become? I regret it. I gave Sululio only the rank of secondary consort. Your Highness's heart's inclination can alter a woman's entire life. I was thus before. Consort Su is even more so now. Thunder and rain alike a heavenly grace. I beg your Highness to understand women's difficulties in this world and act with caution." My pent-up frustration poured out. Having said it, I regretted my boldness. The Crown Prince glanced at the 2 children, then at me, finally sighing, "Shen Anje, a woman like you truly is devastating." He smiled bitterly, then departed. I stood frozen, regretting my rashness. If my wife were a man, she'd surely win top honors for the Shen family as well. Wuji's tone was casual, almost roguish, yet carried a note of admiration. When did you start lurking about? Have you no dignity as a father? I scolded him fondly. He jumped down from the false mountain, pulled me into his arms, patting my back. Crown Prince brother refuses to accept defeat, shamelessly asking me to give him one more chance for you to choose again. But I know he lost his chance long ago. So confident, yet still eavesdropping. I teased. Routine jealousy, wife. Don't blame me. He waved the children away. A maid came forward to lead them off. He took my hand, clinging affectionately as we returned to our chamber. The Crown Prince still needed Prince Xian's support for his succession. He wouldn't openly poach his brother's wife. As long as I didn't leave and Wuji remained secure, all was well. Here the salt monopoly inspection concluded, and the Crown Prince began his return journey. I didn't see him off. Our days returned to tranquility, a peaceful life, hand in hand till white-haired old age. Strategic assessment. At this juncture, Shen Anji revealed a critical information gap. She believed Shi Muqing was merely an ordinary shadow guard. But his true identity was Prince Xian's legitimate second son, Commandery Prince Huo Wuji of Nanqin. What did this mean? Shen Anji thought she was recruiting a useful tool. But in fact, she'd married into a power structure of higher caliber than the Crown Prince's now. Let's watch how she executes the final settlement.